Welcome to the Share Hope, Bring Love podcast, where we bring you stories that illuminate the power of God's hope and love, even in the darkest of places. I'm your host, Rochelle Starr.
And I'm Rachel Hunter, your co-host. Together, we'll explore incredible life-changing stories and the impact of gospel outreach, Christian community, and discipleship.
In each episode, we explore narratives that not only uplift, but also offer insights into how hope and love can transform lives. We believe that these stories have the power to touch hearts and inspire action.
So whether you're seeking to be inspired or to learn, this podcast will be a reminder of the light that exists in the world. You're in the right place. We're here to share, uplift, and connect, one story at a time.
Welcome to the show, Share Hope, Bring Love. Let's go. Welcome back to the Share Hope, Bring Love podcast. I'm your host, Rochelle Starr, and I am so excited today to bring to you Meredith Stone with Avail from New York City, one of my favorite organizations and groups of women that I've ever met through the years that are doing impactful work in a space that we can't wait to talk about with you, Meredith, and I'm so happy you're here. So thank you for joining us on the show. Welcome, and we're glad to have you.
Well, thanks for having me. Personally, I have to say I love Scarlet Hope's mission to share the hope and love of Jesus with every woman in the adult entertainment industry. So grateful for your organization and the wonderful job you're doing caring for women. So very grateful for you all.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. And it's just a special episode because I just got to share with our audience that I have two adopted boys, and unplanned pregnancies in women's lives don't only impact people in our ministry, but they've actually impacted my life significantly. And so my boys are 10 and 3, both from single mothers that have had unplanned pregnancies and chose adoption. And now they're my sons. And so this topic is very near and dear to my heart. But I would love for you to tell our audience about Avail. Tell us about your mission, how you got started personally with the organization, and anything else you'd love for us to know about Avail.
Sure. And thank you for sharing that story about your sons. That's really great. I love that. Yeah, Avail's story actually began with a group of women in New York City who had a friend, and that friend was unexpectedly pregnant. So as the group rallied around their friend, they realized there wasn't a safe place for her to turn to for non-political, non-judgmental care. So they decided to create it themselves. And 28 years later, Avail is still caring for women and men who have experienced unexpected pregnancy. And the mission is to empower them to live abundant lives.
I love that. And it truly is about the abundant life that Jesus came for, and that he came for us to have. And so many people don't actually know that that's possible for them. And so one of the things that overlaps with Scarlet Hope and Avail is the philosophy that we're providing a place for people to belong. People who are experiencing suffering and unplanned things in their life that are really hard, decisions that are really hard. And so we love safe community at Scarlet Hope, and you all that I know that's one of your all's big things. So why do you believe this is important as a part of your all's work?
Yes, safe community is so important. I mentioned Avail was founded 28 years ago because a group of women had that friend that couldn't find that community that we're talking about and that safe place. Unfortunately, that's still true today, 28 years later. So when facing an unexpected pregnancy, it can often be challenging for people to find that non-judgmental space, that safe space to get support and to process. Right now, there's a lot of politics swirling around with people shouting on both sides. And the person that's actually going through the experience, the one who needs the most support, is often lost. And no one's listening to her and what she's going through or what she needs. And that has to change. I've had clients tell me that they feel like they're the only one in the world going through what they're going through in their experience, and how good it feels to realize that they aren't alone, that others have been through the same thing and have come out the other side. And they can find that in a community. And really, we all, all of us, whether we've been pregnant or not, want to be accepted and belong. And acceptance and belonging, that's essential for well-being. We all want to be
Yeah.
fully known in all our complexities and accepted into community.
Mhm.
So coming alongside someone like how Avail does and Scarlet Hope does, that's a way to care for people so that they can experience this community and well-being.
Yeah, I love that because how many decisions are made because that, especially in our ministry, women make choices because they have no support around them. And and I think that's just one of the most beautiful things about God's family, to be honest, and the way that he's designed us is to not live in isolation, but to have that support and to know where to go. And so what does that community and what does it look like in Avail right now?
At Avail, we want to be that safe space for her. We want to walk alongside her before and after her decision, whatever that decision is, because we care about her. We care about her well-being, and her feelings matter, her story matters, she matters. So it mostly looks like listening and asking a lot of questions. It looks like being curious and having a genuine interest in her. It's having an empathy for what she's experiencing and a respect for her. And it's also empowering her with support, that support you were talking about, and those resources as she moves ahead. I had a client in 2020 during COVID who found out she was pregnant and she was devastated. She didn't want to be a single mother. She also didn't want an abortion. Really struggled with the decision between an abortion and carrying the pregnancy to term. When she called her pastor to tell her about this struggle and ask for prayer, the pastor responded by saying, "If you're considering abortion, then we can't pray for you." And that response gave the incredibly hurtful message that because of something you did or something you're thinking about doing, you're no longer worthy to get our support and care. You have to figure it out alone. So thankfully, she did have Avail, and we let her know that we care about her. We want to walk alongside of her. She struggles with this, and we will be here no matter what she decides. Our support will continue beyond the decision.
Yeah.
And because of that support, she felt empowered to parent, and she's now a devoted mother, and they have a beautiful love story. I'm still in touch with her. Avail's walked alongside her for years with emotional and then also very practical support so that she can be the great parent that she wants to be.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. And, if you're listening and honestly, you've been on the side of the table where you are a believer or a person who says when they're faced with that question, will you pray for me? Because I'm facing an unplanned pregnancy and a decision that I don't know what to do about. I really hope that you'll hear the words that Meredith just said, that because of community through a veil versus a prayer through a pastor at a church, that there is a child parented by its mother that is in loving community and has the support and resources that they need. And I'm sure that Avail had so much to do with that. So another thing that I love about you all is that you actually support the people, that you give real support. And so what does that look like? What does it look like to empower someone to make their own decision, and how do you walk alongside them in that hard season?
That's a great question. So I'm going to guess that most of us can relate to times in our lives when we're struggling or we have an extremely hard decision ahead of us, and how it has felt to have someone immediately respond with solutions and advice on what you should do to fix the problem, versus times we've had people respond to us with empathy, that empathy and curiosity that I was talking about earlier. So overall, not effective to just tell people what they should do, especially if they don't agree. However, when people respond with something like, "Wow, that sounds really hard," or "How are you feeling? How are you doing? What do you think would help right now?" When people respond like that, we feel seen and validated in our emotions, right? That we're not crazy for feeling a certain way, that someone gets us,
Yeah.
and in a way is in it with us. And after that, our emotions and our stress seem to dissipate a bit. We gain a little bit more control over our feelings. We start to get clarity about what we value and need in that moment. And we also start to imagine different possibilities. And that approach is empowering. When people ask you questions to understand, not to solve, you feel understood. And then in turn, you understand what you need at that moment, which is really important. So at Avail, ask our clients a lot of questions because we want to know them and we want them to be able to tell us what they need so that we can support them, because we won't know how to best care for them if we don't know how they operate and what they need. So we always listen first.
Thank you for really just drawing out the power of empathy, because I think so many people, women, feel shame and guilt, and they don't think anyone would be able to empathize with them. And that's what I think you just displayed for us, just in how Avail goes about this. One thing about Avail that I love also, if you can't already hear this in this podcast, I do dearly love Avail. Chris, the president, and I are friends. We met in Praxis. And so we've just talked all throughout the years about how can Scarlet Hope do this better? How can we listen and come into contact with the women that we serve when they're facing these exact decisions? And how can we model Jesus to these to the women that we're serving in empathy and compassion and curiosity? And no matter what they decide, how can we continue to show them Christ? And so it's very important to me. It's very important to our ministry. And that's why I'm so happy to talk to you today.
I always tell people to start with 3 simple things to make the biggest difference. And that's thank, ask, and support. So the number one, thank her. Thank her or him. I'm using her for the majority of this podcast, but any her can be replaced by him. So thank her for sharing with you. If she shared this with you, it says she trusts you and she's being really courageous and vulnerable. It takes a lot of courage for someone to come to you to talk about either a current unexpected pregnancy or a past abortion. I just had a client actually today tell me that when she found out she was pregnant, it was like she was holding this heavy secret, and how much it meant to her to have someone else hold that too, because she was the only one holding it. And when she shared it with Avail, it was then 2, and that's it, just the 2. So if someone shares with you, I mean, you may be the only other person they've even shared with. So first thing, say, thank you for telling me that. Second, ask how she's feeling. So you can't assume she's excited. You can't assume she's devastated, or a mixture of both. So no matter what her circumstances are, you also can't assume the options she's considering. And there aren't feelings she should be feeling. So you can't tell people to feel a certain way. And sometimes I think it's out of a desire to help. So for example, you may say something like, don't be stressed. It'll all be okay. Or this is something to be happy about, not sad. But the reality is she may be feeling very stressed, and or sad. And so a better response is just repeating back everything she tells you. So you feel stressed, you're feeling sad. So ask and listen, just repeat back what she says so she knows you're listening. So thank you so much for telling me that. How are you feeling? And then after you spend time listening to her, which could be 5 minutes, could be 5 hours if you have the time, find support. So this support can be for her and for you. So please know that they're caring experts at Avail. Obviously, we'd love to walk alongside and support her if she's interested. All our services are free. We meet with people around the world on Zoom. So it's not just, New York City. We'd love to meet her. But to know that you don't have to be an expert in this. You just need to show her genuine care by asking how she's doing and what she needs, and then connect her to the support systems, that community we talked about, or organizations like Avail.
Okay. Thank, ask, and support. I will drop those in the show notes for this podcast and Avail's website as well, because the bottom line is that we are called by the Lord and as a Christian specifically to be the hands and feet of Jesus. We are not to be the judge or the ruler over these people's lives. We are not the expert in anyone's life. And I'm very passionate about that. I've learned that the hard way in 17 years of doing ministry, tens of thousands of people that Scarlet Hope has helped. When we try to make ourselves the expert in their lives, or rather the Holy Spirit in someone else's life, that never works. It never works. And so when we trust that the God of the universe sees this person and they divinely connected the two of us together, where a woman is courageous and she shares what's going on in her life, and then you have the patience through the Lord to ask the right questions and the compassionate questions, and then to ask, how can I support you? What does support look like to you? I want to use myself as an example, Meredith, as we kind of wrap up this podcast, but is just 1 week ago today, I have been walking alongside a woman for about 8 years, and she came to find me at the clubs that we serve at every week. And she came to find me and she sat down and she said, I'm so glad you're here. I have something to tell you. And so I didn't know what she was going to say. She said, I'm pregnant. You know, I have 2 other children. I just can't do this. And so 2 hours just sitting and listening and talking to her. And I asked her, what does support look like? And she said, I just got to think through these decisions. I told her I will support her, and didn't hear from her for 2 days. And then on Sunday, she texted me, the Lord actually has spoken to me and I'm going to choose to keep this baby. Will you please help me?
Wow.
And coming from a place of like, I have 2 adopted sons, and 2 birth moms that are courageous. I can't help but say, thank you, Lord, that you helped bring clarity to her decision. But I want to ask you to coach me, if you will, as an example to everybody listening. I often think, and I'm sure there's other people out here, now what? How is she going to be a single mom of 3 kids when she can't support her 2 kids? How is she going to get a new job? All of these things that we've experienced before. But what would you say to somebody like me that is really trying to walk alongside somebody like her?
Yeah, I think letting her know that you're there for her throughout the whole thing, of course, just knowing that you're there. I do think there are some very practical needs, though, that women have. And I think finding places like Avail, whether that's a church community or a similar organization, again, like Avail, I think that those places can really kind of help provide for more of those complex needs. I know at Avail, we saw those complexities as we grew and we listened to our clients, and that was, medical, mental health, housing, parenting support, legal help, social services. The list goes on. And Avail's not an expert in all of these things. And so we started to reach out to organizations that were experts and provided best practice care. So even just being able to do a little bit of research to find those places in your community that can do those things, we would connect the clients to them so that those needs could be met. It is really important for them to know that they don't just have that emotional support, but that practical support. Whether, again, that's a church saying we are going to come watch your child when your child needs watching and bring meals and very practical things. Or again, organizations who can say, okay, let's have you meet with a financial advisor for free or get a subsidy for counseling. At Avail, we provide a subsidy for childcare so that they can continue to work or go to school. That's really important, because to ask a woman to go through the very hard task of carrying a pregnancy to term, and then whether that's making an adoption plan or parenting, it's really important they have that practical support so that they can thrive and their child can thrive.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for saying that. And I think that's exactly why we need each other, like organizations like Scarlet, Hope, and Avail, is because we all can't meet every need that everybody has. I'm truly like not the expert in this field, and you all spend your time and energy and talent helping women and families, men facing these decisions. And I think it's just so important why we need each other. And our ministry doesn't just want to be a ministry that says, oh, we'll pray for you, but rather we'll not just pray for you, but we'll also provide for you. And these are the things that we can do. And then connect women to the local resources for that help. Because so many people, and through the years I've heard this, is so many Christians want to say, don't have an abortion. But in the end, they don't want to help the mother parent her child, or they just think adoption's the easiest solution. And ultimately, we need to be mindful that God of the universe created that woman and that child within her womb, and that he's the author of that, of their life. And yes, absolutely, he does give some women adoption plans, and that's beautiful, right? I have my boys because of that. But in other circumstances, he chose that woman for that child. And we as Christians should walk alongside those women, no matter what they face, and what decision they make, that we can be Christ to them. And so I love what Avail does. I love that we can glean from you all. I've learned a lot from you all throughout the years, and I'm really thankful for what you guys do. So anything lastly that you would like to share with us or our listeners?
I'll just end with this. And I think what you said is so true. It's so important that we really rally around women who are pregnant. We're both moms. We know how hard it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're saying we genuinely care about this child and this, this parent, to really show very practical ways of helping them. So I think that's great. But, I was thinking about your mission and, showing hope and love. And I just feel like when I've met with women who have gone through, whether it be an abortion or unexpected pregnancy, they have given me such hope. I have seen things that looked impossible, and there's been so many possibilities that have come to fruition, and it's given me such hope. And just to see their resilience and their courage. And so I think when you walk alongside somebody, there's such a privilege in getting to see that journey and to see them kind of triumph through really hard times. And so that's just, I want to encourage people, if it feels a little overwhelming or scary to walk alongside somebody going through this, that I guarantee it will, you'll be surprised at how much hope it gives you and how much really you're inspired by it, and how much you learn and grow from walking alongside somebody.
Thank you for sharing that, because that's truly what we're called to do, is share hope and bring love to people in all circumstances, no matter what they're facing or where they came from or what they're doing. We know that each of these individuals are made in God's image and deserve to be treated as such, as if it was Jesus himself. And so honestly, I can't thank you for that. And I thank you for everything that you've shared with us. I pray that if you're listening to this, that you, and you come across someone in your life that shares this news with you, reach out to Avail, but also do thank them, ask them, and support them. And most of all, share hope and bring love to anyone that you meet. Thank you so much for listening in today. Thank you, Meredith, for being on this podcast. We're so happy to have had you.
Oh, thank you.
As we come to the end of today's episode, we hope you've been deeply inspired by the stories we shared. Our mission is to spread the hope and love of Jesus with women in the adult entertainment industry.
If you feel inspired to join the movement and make a difference, we invite you to visit our website at scarlethope.org. Follow us on social media at The Scarlet Hope for updates, or consider joining a local team in your own community.
Together, we can make a world of difference, sharing hope and bringing love to those who need it most. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to having you on our next episode.